What do you picture when you hear the word journalist? You might picture someone like Chris Hedges, or perhaps John Carreyrou, who broke the Elizabeth Holmes story, after assiduous work and many barriers. You certainly wouldn't picture an individual making up titles on his toilet, thinking of creative ways to use the same celebrity names in new videos, because he has to keep uploading daily, regardless of how ridiculous the premise is. And yes, I had the honor of being called a troll by a guy who made up a masturbation story about King Charles, to get clicks. I would much rather be a troll than resort to that buffoonery, thank you. Of course, I am not a troll, but merely a critic. I see the vitriol this person generates by putting out one fake story after another, and that is reason enough to voice my criticism. Andrew Gold is a former BBC journalist who initially built a platform on YouTube by challenging extremism. He takes great pride in his track record, constantly reminding people he is an actual journalist, perhaps out of an intuition that they wouldn't be able to tell, based on the sensationalist tabloid trash he puts out nowadays. Intermittently, he has interviewed many former cult members, as well as former adherents of extremist ideologies. He retained the attention and support of critical thinkers. He also tapped into the general interest towards personality disorders, although in a sensationalist manner, which paved the way for his current and clueless overuse of DSM vernacular. The natural inference was that his channel advocated for victims, as well as against brainwashing, and took mental health issues seriously. None of that applies. False advocacy was a marketing strategy, to build credibility before taking the tabloid route. Today, he encourages hysteria and armchair diagnosing strangers with disorders for the fun of it. At the same time, he complains of being verbally attacked by neo-Nazis, likely attracted by his culture war grift. He creates content for bigots and conspiracy theorists, and then he's surprised when they show up. Much like Andy Signor, Andrew Gold displays those he covers as trophies, using their names and photos in unrelated content. Aside from Meghan and Harry, he uses Tom Cruise in many thumbnails, at times without the videos being related to Cruise in any way. The interest in Cruise and Scientology is understandable, they are highly immoral and cause so much harm. However, as an individual, the man is rarely in the news and little is known about his current life. At this point you'd think Andrew Gold sleeps on a pillow with Cruise's face on it. It's such a ridiculous gimmick. When seeing a half-likable grifter, a viewer starting to cringe has one hope, namely that the person has limits. That's usually not the case. A while ago, Gold used the death of Lisa Marie Presley to create yet another Scientology video that was devoid of substance. He claimed her passing had been caused by the cult, with the Golden Globes as quote-unquote the final nail. In fact, she had died of natural causes and heart disease ran in her family. As shown in these comments, Gold had to change the title, removing the word demise, as YouTube had demonetized the video. It's obviously disgusting to make content claiming to know what actually caused someone's demise, as opposed to their official cause of death, to cause intrigue. I personally refer to channels engaging in this as hearse chasers. What most people perceive as a sad event, causing grief to a real family, these types see as an opportunity, digging up gossip about the deceased, that people might click on while the person's name is trending. Because, you know, they just died. Gold couldn't squander a chance to slap Cruise's face onto more thumbnails. Needless to say, responsible coverage of a person or event consists of dealing with facts and facts alone. It's useless to claim that analyzing all sides of a shit sandwich is fair and balanced content, when that shit sandwich should not exist in the first place. For instance, I could make a long video titled "Andrew Gold Might Be Into Sheep," analyzing all sides of that hypothesis. Would viewers then focus on the word might, or would I be putting a slimy picture in their heads? His video titles are not innocent propositions to consider. They are hateful and scandalous, and also phrased as statements, not as pure speculation, which is usually the case. Viewers often interact with the titles alone and pay little attention. There is no excuse for creating stories out of thin air. A blatant example is the claim that Prince Harry's book, Spare, contains a paragraph describing how Harry had caught his father self-gratifying, when no such inference is made in the book. While admitting in the comments that it was his own speculation, Gold had put this in the title as a statement. Most of his audience reacted with immediate outrage and disgust, without verifying his claim was accurate. They could see others in the comments section drawing attention to the misinterpretation of that paragraph. It didn't stop them from calling Harry all the names under the sun for this perceived transgression. His strategy in claiming to be unbiased is very simple: plausible deniability. When responding to criticism, he sometimes claims to not support the views pushed by those he interviews. However, his content is presented in a manner suggesting the opposite. More than once, he weaseled his way out with excuses. He interviewed a conspiracy theorist, again not mentioning in the description that he did not promote or believe those unhinged views. He then claimed he had been ill at the time of the interview, which didn't stop him from uploading the craziness 2 weeks later. In fact, he has a habit of responding with, "I don't actually believe this," or "I actually like this person," after creating a defamatory video. For instance, he suggested Jordan Peterson was a narcissist and that Anthony Scaramucci was a psychopath, when his perception of them seems to be positive overall. In other words, he wants to have his cake and eat it, profiting from trash while maintaining a respectable facade. The Scaramucci videos insulted not just his guest but viewers' intelligence as well. As some bizarre form of SEO, Gold uses terms such as psychopath, sociopath, and narcissist, besides the cult vernacular, when the topics he covers are unrelated. Instead of focusing on what Scaramucci was actually saying, Gold unexpectedly and with no basis asked him if he was a psychopath, as he wanted to use this in a video title. He doesn't care at all whether what he puts out has any basis in reality, it simply has to be eye-catching. Because the guy was taken by surprise and fumbled, Gold used this to make a separate video with Scaramucci's photo beside a blood-splattered film character depicting a psychopath, as if his ridiculous question had been the crux of that interview. Similarly, he cheapened an interview with cult expert Stephen Hassan by asking him to talk about Harry and Meghan, again to clip it and promote it separately, using sociopathy as a tag, even though Stephen Hassan never said anything of the sort. That's what I mean by saying he insults the intelligence of every viewer who isn't a mindless zombie. Stephen Hassan is highly respected and a channel doesn't need to employ such gimmicks for people to watch an interview with him. By throwing that bait, Gold implied his audience was trained like Pavlov's dogs to only click on tabloid stories. He has legitimate opportunities to interview interesting people and this is what he does with them. Of course, some of them, acquired through smear campaigns, are exactly that. When riding a hate train, the clickbait is like a red flag waved in front of a herd of raging bulls. Their only focus is on expressing their revulsion and outrage, based in reality or not, and the spurious nature of the content is not even noticed. The hatred for Meghan Markle has only grown in recent months, as she and her husband have been sharing their experiences at the hands of the British media. For grifters, smearing this woman with irrational arguments has been a money funnel. When someone is intensely hated, there comes a point when they become a consumable. No speculation is considered tasteless and revolting. Grifters are aware of that and take it as far as they can. They know the crowd just wants to eat, and they begin the grift when the audience is already in a frenzy, willing to consume any falsehoods for confirmation bias. Have a look at the paragraph in Harry's book, Spare, which Gold claims proves he's lying, presumably about everything. It's a description of a Gothic ruin. Not kidding. According to Gold, the way he describes it, namely implying that it isn't actually a Gothic ruin, makes Harry sound psychotic. The video claiming this was some kind of smoking gun was liked more than 5,000 times, when it makes as much sense as a flying cow. Also, consider this video asking his viewers to diagnose Harry with psychopathy, as if his audience were suddenly full of licensed psychologists. He has also encouraged viewers to diagnose Meghan Markle with NPD, and they of course obliged. For people so obsessed with DSM terminology, they ignore the fact that a diagnosis cannot be given by anyone apart from a clinician assessing the person. This habit has become as common as astrology and tarot readings and has the exact same value. He has repeatedly invited people who have never met Meghan or Harry to opine on their character and goals, with complete hubris. Day in and day out, he sees the outpour of vitriol based on these fake stories and fails to develop a conscience. He justifies all this by claiming the channel could not survive without tabloid topics, though he saw substantial growth back when he was not covering them. He now puts out more than 20 videos and streams on Harry and Meghan per month. How Andrew Gold feels about these people, which is anybody's guess, is not relevant. He knows for a fact the titles he personally puts out are either false or speculative. More recently, he covered the non-existent lawsuit Meghan and Harry were apparently going to file against South Park, even days after it was officially confirmed the lawsuit rumor had been false. He knew this and went ahead with it anyway. Note the response to being either told or reminded of the article in People magazine, confirming this issue. I quote, "It's great that you believe everything the rich and powerful tell you through tabloid PR." End quote. What are we to make of this? Is he saying the official statement given to the magazine is false, and should not be believed, and that he should be believed instead, with no evidence? Is he saying they are in fact going to sue? This is one manipulative individual who throws buzzwords at people to disguise the fact that he lies all the time. Another interesting reply has him expressing outrage at the details revealed in Harry's book, which presumably upset some people. Here he is in a video disclosing Tom Cruise's alleged impotence, discovered in a leaked email. So spare me with the sanctimony, no pun intended. The effect of pushing misinformation is negligible in his opinion. All that matters is for him to capitalize on every piece of content, even if it's misleading. On the 1st of January of this year, he published an old interview concerning the Depp vs. Heard case, titling it Bizarre Updates on Depp vs. Heard. This was no update whatsoever, as the case had been settled in December. Nowhere in the description was it mentioned that this was no longer relevant, or that it contained wrong predictions, making it of no use. Some viewers, who were not up to speed with the outcome of the case, treated this as news, thinking the case was ongoing. His excuse was that the video had been scheduled before the settlement, which is of course no reason to release it with no clarification. Presumably, he knew people wouldn't click on old news, so he misled them instead. This circus has left some in his audience perplexed, given the prior direction of the channel. He cares so little that he can't even be bothered to pin a comment or edit the video description for corrections. He did on one occasion, in a video claiming Meghan and Harry had ties to Scientology, based on a tabloid article. While reading it, he realized it was utter nonsense, but left it up anyway, as amusing and goofy, which his audience found adorable. Let's think about that for a second. Yes, people make mistakes and jump the gun. But what does this say about his motivation and ethics regarding a subject he covers often? He was so thirsty to find scandalous content on these two that he jumped on stream to read absolute crap, without looking into it first. Not to mention that some in his comments section believed it. If you still have doubts that this guy is taking the piss, here's his comment about the famous racist image, tweeted by a BBC radio presenter after the birth of Meghan and Harry's first son. It displays a photo of the couple with the baby, beside one of a man, a woman, and a chimp. Someone acting in good faith would concede at least this time that racism was involved. Andrew Gold, however, argued that the man just found monkeys funny. He is that determined to deny any imputation of racism towards Meghan. Lastly, his interactions with the audience further substantiate how arrogant he is and how little he cares about him impact. Admittedly, he likes comments in droves for the engagement, without reading them. This has resulted in him liking actual gems, such as a comment claiming the royals were lizards, or one claiming the BBC hated European heritage people, namely white, with his stamp of approval on it. When criticized, he often engages in semantics, not taking any responsibility for misinforming the public. An example we've already gone through was the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp video. A viewer asked why he was releasing it at that point, and you can pause to read how that conversation went. Again, this person doesn't operate in good faith. He also received criticism on his video suggesting Meghan Markle had NPD. He employed the vernacular of cult experts to deflect it, accusing viewers of thought-terminating reactions. This is absolute nonsense, as it's only fair to point out he's in no position to diagnose people. There is surely more to bring up. However, the case has been made. As a last observation, grifters claim they obsessively cover certain topics because people are interested. Yet they are the ones keeping that interest alive, along with tabloids. They are the ones creating one fake story after another, to fuel the fake outrage. It's like feeding a dumpster fire and profiting from the amount on toxins released in the atmosphere. In conclusion, Andrew Gold can repeat until the cows come home that he's an actual journalist, while putting out heaps of tabloid trash, lying to viewers and disrespecting his guests with ridiculous gimmicks, treating serious subjects in the most unserious manner. Anyone remotely intelligent sees right through him.